So the question is, what happens to consumer and producer surplus if the government implements either a price floor or a price ceiling? So we're going to take the case of a price ceiling first. But before we do that, obviously we want to actually define our areas to begin with. So here we have at equilibrium, okay, without any controls, price controls, we have consumer surplus there, and in this triangle we have producer surplus. Okay, so let's say the government decides to implement a price ceiling and sets the price right here, appropriately below equilibrium price, right? Creating, as we know, oops, I guess I didn't label supply and demand curves, so we have supply here and demand here, creating a shortage, right? And the current amount that will be traded in with the presence of this price ceiling is this amount, right? Because the producers are only going to produce this amount, which we'll call QC, the quantity with the ceiling, because it's not worth it to them to produce more at this government-imposed price. So what happens is this entire amount of surplus over here, this triangle, which I'm actually going to make red, okay, this triangle is pre-existing surplus that is now lost, okay, to this economy. And so that is the area that we call deadweight loss, okay, or inefficiency. And the rest of it, okay, what happens to it? So the price is lower than the price was before, correct? The price is now lower, so the consumers who are still in this market, who are actually able to obtain a unit of this good, are pretty happy, right? Their surplus extends all the way down here now. So this strange shape, okay, is now consumer surplus, and the producers have been mostly priced out of the market, we would say. Most of them can't afford to actually produce in this market anymore. So the producer surplus becomes just this little tiny triangle down here. All right, I am going to erase that and start over again so we can see what happens if a price floor is imposed. Okay, and this time I'm going to remember to put the supply and demand labels on first. Okay, and again, if the government's going to impose a price floor, they're going to put it above equilibrium price because the goal is to keep the price from sinking. Okay, so we're going to call that P with a floor. And here we can see that quantity supplied is going to actually be larger than the quantity demanded. So how much will actually be exchanged in the market? Okay, remember our original consumer surplus was this triangle, right? And our producer surplus was this triangle. Okay, but what's going to happen to the amount of whatever this good is? Okay, let's say it's coffee. Okay, what's going to happen to the amount being exchanged or being bought and sold now? Well, it won't be the amount that's being supplied, okay, because people aren't willing to buy that much. Okay, consumers at this price are only willing to buy this much. So it's sort of like the lowest goes, right? If it's producers who are holding out, right, then we'll go with the producers. If it's consumers who are holding out, then it's consumers. But the quantity goes with sort of whoever's willing to buy or sell the least. So this becomes our quantity with a floor. And again, we have created a very similar shaped deadweight loss. Okay, but this time the producers are benefiting, right? Oops, it looks like I labeled this as consumer surplus down there. That's producer surplus. Looks like the producers are now benefiting, right, because they are getting a much higher price. So the producers who are actually in the market are going to get a much higher surplus. Okay, and the consumers who are willing and able to pay this higher price are going to get a very small amount of surplus.